sometimes we are tired of it, and we need sometimes a sudden explosion to make us free from it. And for instance, after the war, our brutal side was completely hidden. But I believe it is just hidden, I think.
Today, I'm going to be talking about the Sea of Fertility series, which was written by Yukio Mishima. Briefly, I'm going to tell you about the plot, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to tell you about my feelings, what I enjoyed. I cannot speak about this series without revealing a very major piece of the story that comes at the end of the first novel. I simply cannot talk about the second, third, and fourth novel without giving away one of the secrets of the book. If you are the kind of person, and I respect you for not wanting to know any of the little secrets, this is your warning. I can't make the video without revealing this thing, okay? All right, so there you go. Spring Snow, the first volume of the Sea of Fertility. The main character's name is Kiyoaki Matsugai. There is quite a lot of his relationship with his father and his relationship with his best friend, Honda. Kiyoaki's love interest, Satoko. Now, Kiyoaki is from a very rich, honorable family, and Satoko, her family, has fallen on some hard times, and they are quite eager for her to make a good marriage to help restore the family financially. This all takes place between October 1912 and March 1914. We're watching Kiyoaki as he is growing from a 17-year-old boy to a 20-year-old man. Now, the first half of the book, it's really a lot of slow development. The main situation in the novel is that Kiyoaki, he's not prepared to declare his love for this girl, and he's not sure that he wants to get married. He's waiting for something. He's waiting for something to happen that he will love her. And she is waiting for him. She is waiting for him to ask her to get married, because that is what she expects. And her family are waiting, and they are getting older. One more year, and he's thinking, well, maybe I should finish my school first. And then she receives a proposal from a prince, which makes the family quite happy. Although Satoko she prefers Kiyoaki. He has been very vague, he's been very cool. So she and her family accept the proposal of marriage from the prince, at which point Kiyoaki goes completely crazy, realizing that he is madly in love with her. So that is the first novel. If you do not wish to know what happens, you have to stop watching right now. In the second novel, Runaway Horses, and in novel 2, 3, 4, the main character will now be Kiyoaki's best friend, Shigekuni Honda. The story jumps ahead 20 years, and Kiyoaki's best friend Honda, who was very studious, is now working as a judge. He goes to attend a kendo tournament, and there is one young man who is extraordinarily proficient as a kendo master. And he fights in a tournament, and he wins, and he's a young champion, and it's all wonderful. And while they are bathing in a waterfall, he sees that this young kendo master, whose name is Aisao, he notices that Aisao has the same 3 moles on the left side of his chest that his friend Kiyoaki used to have. The thing is that Kiyoaki dies at the end of Spring Snow. He dies when he's 20 years old. Honda, seeing these 3 marks and feeling some strange feelings about Aisao, has a very definite feeling that this young man is the reincarnated version of his friend Kiyoaki, but he has been reincarnated with a completely different personality. He just recognized him. He said, this is my old friend Kiyoaki, I could see, and he feels, because of the 3 moles on his body, that this is complete evidence. Now, where Kiyoaki was a bit of a romantic and a dreamer, Aisao is a right-wing militant. He's hardline right-wing. He believes that Japan should be for the Japanese, and they should eliminate all of this foreign Western influence, and that they should go back to the old ways where the emperor is regarded as deity on earth as far as the Japanese are concerned. And he's very hardline right-wing. And because he's very well respected and regarded as being this champion kendoist. He gathers a little troop of 20 young men, and they plot the assassination and the terrorist action, blowing up of a bank, to tell people that we need to, Japan must return to its past ways, and that we have to eliminate these left-wing capitalists who are coming in and making a lot of money. He's against making a lot of money somehow. If you are familiar with Yukio Mishima, this might sound extremely familiar. I'll talk about that later. His band is caught and Isao goes to prison for a year, and that's all I'll tell you about the second book. The third book, The Temple of Dawn. So this one jumps around quite a bit between Honda is an old, wealthy, working as a lawyer representative for a big corporation, goes to Thailand to take care of some legal troubles with a contract with this corporation. And while he is in Thailand, he has an audience with one of the princesses, and he meets this young princess, a child. She is 7 years old, and her name is Ying Chan. And although he doesn't see the 3 moles on the side of her body, he again believes that this child is the reincarnation of Kiyoaki and now Isao, who dies at the end of the second book. In the first book, Kiyoaki has a dream diary that he was recording all of his dreams, and over time, Honda sees that his dreams are becoming manifest. And so when he visits this princess, he feels that she is the reincarnation, which Kiyoaki foretold in his dreams. So he meets the princess when she is a young girl, and then many, many years later, in 1952, so 11 years later, now she is grown up, she is 18 years old. He is not entirely sure. He wants to see the 3 moles on the side of her naked body. And this is where this book gets really quite strange, that this old man, 60 years old, it's not entirely sure if he wants to sleep with her, or he will be satisfied if he watches another man sleep with her. He believes that he is interested in the 3 moles so that he can guarantee that this is the reincarnation of his friend, but I'm not entirely sure about that. And the final book, The Decay of the Angel. The princess died. Now Honda, who is approaching 80 years old, feels that he has once again discovered the reincarnation of his old childhood friend Kiyoaki in the body of this 16-year-old boy who is an orphan, because he sees the 3 moles. I guess this is the strangest one of the lot, because suddenly now this approaching 80-year-old man, Honda, he starts to say that he feels that he has this evil inside of him, and he recognizes the same variety of evil in this young boy. And now he is extraordinarily wealthy. He is one of the richest men in all of Japan. And what he decides to do is that he is going to adopt, because Honda and his wife, they never had any children. So now at the age of 79 or 78, he's going to adopt this young boy who he believes is his reincarnated friend. And because the boy grew up poor and without much education, he wants to give him a sophisticated, cultured upbringing. And he also wants to keep him close so that he can watch him, this evil that he perceives in this boy. And it gets quite strange. So he adopts him, he brings him home, he starts to educate him in telling him that, he has to learn how to eat a meal in the proper European, not using chopsticks, but he has to use a wide array of cutlery, and he has to become familiar with the different serving styles. And this is his idea of educating this boy who really is there's something dark inside of him where he's just sitting there plotting. If this is what this old man wants me to do so I can inherit his unbelievable wealth, I will do it for now. And the boy becomes a very frightening sadist and manipulator. And the old man is watching, thinking, if this is my reincarnated friend, I can tolerate his sadism because I know that he will die at the age of 20, as all of the other Kiyoaki, Isao, Yin-chan, they all died at the age of 20. If this new boy, Toru, dies at the age of 20, then it will prove his theories about reincarnation. So what will happen? Will the monster inherit this massive legacy and become a monster on such a grand scale? Or will he die in his 20th year? Well, okay, so the first book, how did I feel about this? About 50% of this book is extremely slow. But then a thing happens when we finally get that conflict. The second half of the book is amazing. And I read the second half of the book almost in one day because it was just like, wow, now the good stuff is happening. No, I couldn't have read this all in one day. I might have though. Classic love story tragedy. The boy is fickle, the girl is waiting. The other boy comes in, she accepts, she needs to, for her family. Kiyoaki goes crazy, and it leads to his death. Like that, oh man, that's the good tragedy. I love that. This book, something fairly similar, that the first half of this book is really occupied with this Aisao, his mentality about why he is such a hardline right-wing, the samurai and the emperor, and I would kill myself for Japan. If you know about Yukio Mishima, like this very strongly reflects Yukio Mishima's real personality. He did kill himself attempting to organize a coup that failed. Don't get a lot of literature from hardline right-wing militants, do we? You know, the purity of the Japanese nation. If you're a very big fan of Yukio Mishima, I think this novel might give you the strongest taste of his personality and his philosophy regarding his political beliefs. You know, he himself, he was a kendo practitioner. How I feel about this book, it was a bit hard for me, this one, because I am very unfamiliar with Japanese politics. In the 1930s, well, it took me quite by surprise. It would have been a lot easier if I had been a bit more familiar with some, you know, Japanese political history of the 20th century. However, from reading this book, I feel that I do know marginally more now about political history of Japan in the 20th century from reading this book. So once again, the first half of this book is largely given to the theory of reincarnation and a lot of, is it Hinduism that believes in reincarnation? I have to be honest, I was skimming quite a bit. Like when it was all about this, you know, these ancient Buddhist tracts and how the reincarnation works, I didn't feel it was entirely necessary. And in the second half, when this 60-year-old Honda is discovered to be something of a voyeur, he has a little peephole in his guest house where he likes to spy on the people who come and stay with him after one of his weekend parties. That was quite good. And how it develops into trying to get this princess, she's not a princess anymore after the war, but she's still a part of this royal family, trying to get her into that room with a young man so he can see her, you know, 3 moles if she has it. She has a very beautiful body, by the way, and she's quite voluptuous. That is referred to on many times. But, you know, he wants to see the 3 moles. He doesn't want to just look at her tits. And in the end, he does see something, but not what he expected. Oh boy, like what comes at the end of this book is quite a surprise. I wasn't really ready for that. And in the final book, things really get very dark and dirty with this book. All of a sudden, Honda now, like he's telling us that he feels that he has this evil inside of him, and he sees the 16-year-old boy Toru, and he's recognizing this evil in this young boy. And it's a bit, I haven't seen any evil in you in in the first 2 books. Okay, I suppose in the 3rd book, yes, he was getting quite deranged. For all of its darkness, something happens on the last 2 or 3 pages is almost, for me, like a little miracle. And I don't know exactly what happened. I know word by word and line by line, but like I don't know what happened with me. It was just such a profound reverberation from inside of me. I was just shocked at what I read. The entire series is absolutely worth it. It is a very, very beautiful series. Like it's very subtle. I can't get over what happens in the end. Like I don't know what to say, if it's something very, very profound or it's something very simple which had just this drastic effect on me. There's a certain word that starts with an E that I refuse to use publicly, but it was just this shattering moment of what if that were the case. Sat there with the book on my chest, trying to understand my feelings. Today is November the 23rd, and Yukio Mishima, whose name was not actually Yukio Mishima, that was his pen name. His actual name was Kimitake Hiraoka. Here it is. So about the author. On November the 25th, 1970, 52 years ago, almost to the day, Yukio Mishima committed seppuku, ritual suicide, where they cut open the stomach. Just pause for a minute and think if there could be a more horrific or painful way to commit suicide. A paper cut is pretty painful. Imagine sticking a dagger into your belly from the liver and tearing it open. Like, can you think of anything more grotesque, obscenely painful? 45 years old and at the peak of a brilliant literary career. He had that morning written the last word of the final lines of his tetralogy, The Sea of Fertility. The tetralogy is his masterpiece as he knew, on November the 25th, 1970. Yukio Mishima took his little band of home-trained militia, attempted a coup which failed utterly, and then he cut his belly open, and his second in command cut his head off, but his second in command failed to cut his head off, so the next one down the line cut his head off. And because the second in command was so ashamed of not being able to go through with it, he also cut his belly open and had his head cut off the day he finished this. Okay. All right, so that was a very long review. I hope that gave you a little taste of what it's like to read this Mishima series. It's not hard to read, and I really enjoyed it. Which one did I enjoy the most? I can't say. The first one, I liked the love story between the two young people. The second one, I liked this fanatical Kanduist, even though, his political opinions don't really line up with my own, to see this kind of fanatical decision to do something. The third one was quite good because the weird sex stuff at the end. And the fourth one was quite good. We've got the old monster in his last years grooming the young monster who he thinks will die. That's good stuff. Thank you very much for listening. I'm going to stop it now because it's gone on and on and on, okay? I really hate to do this. I don't know if you've ever noticed in any of my other videos, but I do my absolute best not to give away anything. I just feel that as soon as someone tells you something happens in a movie or a book, it plants a seed. Subsequently, when you are reading the book or you're watching the movie, it's like you're waiting for that bit of knowledge that you are already aware of. If somebody says, oh, in that particular scene, the actor's wearing a blue shirt, and I wish I could get my hands on that blue shirt. If you watch the movie and you know where to buy a shirt like that, I'd really appreciate it. And now it's just your, blue shirt. I really do hate to give any spoilers. I even hate to say the word spoilers. I feel that it's, not really appropriate to my generation. However,